We might have a comeback of the save tanks because of shield fighter that Duo Fjorm brings, and this is going to be my breakdown and I'm going to be explaining everything. So here we have got Ice Tribe Felicia as an Axe Cavalier this time, so she doesn't really have higher resistance than her defense, which kind of surprised me because Felicia is the character you would want that on. So she's got Ice Tribe Axe giving her -1 special cooldown, and this does have the Hexblade effect built in, and if she's on a team with her support partner, then at sort of turn, she's going to be giving the Dragon Effective Immunity status to her support partners in 3 spaces of her. So this is something that we have not really seen before that much, and I believe this was only part of Duo Idun's duo skill, but now Felicia is giving this out to her support partners, even to Corrin. So that is really helpful to many of the dragons, and if there's no support partner on the team, then she's going to be giving this dragon effective damage immunity status to the ally with the highest resistance in 3 spaces of her. So even if you're not a dragon, you want to get this dragon shield status from Felicia because it's going to be opening up more things. So for the allies in 3 spaces of her with the dragon shield status, she's going to be giving them +5 speed and resistance in the combat, and they completely neutralize any kind of penalties to their speed and resistance. And then they have got null counter disrupt, which is really good. We didn't really have any kind of way of outsourcing null counter disrupt, and this is gonna be opening up a lot of options for so many units. Like if you use Brave Bernie for vantaging with her paranoia status, getting this null counter disrupt is so important. So I think that this is the start of it, and we're probably gonna be seeing null counter disrupt as a status down the line. And Felicia is still going to be a really solid support unit, especially with Citrine, because Citrine can spread this Dragon Shield status to multiple allies at the same time. So if you want your entire team to have null counter disrupt, then Citrine is going to be doing that. But if you just want it on a single unit, then you could just partner them up with Felicia and she's going to be giving out that status. So definitely pretty unique unit. And then for her own combat, if she initiates combat or if she's in 3 spaces of any kind of ally with the Dragon Shield status, then she can get up to easily Omni +13. So this depends on 15% of her speed at sort of combat, and she does come with odd speed wave, so it does help you with that. And then you can give her the Dragon Flowers, so it easily allows you to get 13 to all of her stats. And then she has got true damage based on 20% of her speed, and this is not going to be applicable on the AoE specials. And then she has got 50% damage reduction piercing, which we seem to get on pretty much any kind of modern unit nowadays. And then she has got 40% damage reduction on foes' first attacks, including the brave hits. So even though her combat is decent, I think she's mainly going to be used for her support. And until we get a better way of giving out null counter disrupt status, she is going to be the support unit for that. So she's going to be amazing for Ether Raid's offense, and she does come with attack speed XL, good fodder, and then speed resistance near trace 4 because she does have a Hexblade. So she's one of the units that they could have given this skill to, and odd speed wave 4 is going to be giving her the null follow-up. So overall, a pretty solid unit, and is definitely going to be making the value of flash status and sweep effects go down, because we do have null counter disrupt echo, and also many of the top tier tanks like Emblem Ike have that null counter disrupt built in their weapon, and if you don't, then Felicia is here to help you with. Then we have got Ice Tribe Thea, and she's effectively going to be a better Bridal Catria. So she's a sword flyer this time, and the reason why I say she's going to be better is because she has got even more things than Bridal Catria, except for the harmonic button. So she has got Ilian Frostblade, which gives her -1 special cooldown, and at sort of turn, if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, then she gives the triangle attack and the Canto 1 status to herself and the allies in 2 spaces. So triangle attack is going to be making you have the brave effect if you have got 2 allies nearby, and that is going to be helping you in summoner duels. I don't really think that she's going to be that good for Ether Raid's defense, but she can definitely be good for Ether Raid's offense on many of the Gale Force teams, just for having a bit more oomph on your units with the brave attacks, and also having the Canto 1 for the positioning. And then she has got effects for her own combat, so if she initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, then she can get extra stats depending on 5 plus the number of dragon flowers that have been used on her times 2. So max this could be 15, and it's not really all that hard to max the dragon flower on her, but even if you don't, she's still going to be functioning as a pretty solid support unit. And then she has got 50% damage reduction piercing built in this weapon, which is extremely good with the brave effect that you're able to get out of triangle attack, and flyers don't really have a way of getting the damage reduction piercing. So this makes her have a much better combat than Brattlecatria, for example. And then she also has 7 flat damage reduction on foes first attacks, including the brave hit. So this is also good for the survival if you end up running, something like Pegasus Rift that she comes with, just stacking up more flat damage reduction. And you don't really have to run a trace skill on her to get the Kanto. You just get it out of her weapon. And then finally, she also gets special cooldown +1 per attack. So this is really important for retaliating back with no quarter, and also for functioning as a Gale Force unit in Aetheryte's offense. So like I said, she can be useful in Summoner Duels as a Brattlecatria replacement, because you could just run Soaring Echo as a Attune skill and run Air Orders 4 and essentially have the same support, but also have the utility of Kanto 1. And she is going to be a bit harder to kill than Brattlecatria because of the flat damage reduction and a functional resistance that enables the usage of Pegasus Rift. And in Gale Force teams, because of these special charges, she could easily run Gale Force and still have 50% damage reduction piercing, which cannot be said for a lot of the Wings of Mercy follow-up unit. So I see her being really effective there, because a lot of times nowadays we have such bulky units, especially now with Shield Fighter, that it's going to be hard for your Gale Force team to kill units. So the Brave attack can be really helpful in that, and Thea can also, provide some value with her own combat. And she is going to be having Iceberg, Pegasus Rift, which is going to be giving you that flat damage reduction and also true damage, and also the Diamant effect, which makes it harder for you to double her. And she does have base 39 resistance, so she's easily able to use it. 40 is the benchmark basically for Pegasus Rift, so she has got 39, and then she has got Air Orders 4. So this is stealing Hinoka's spotlight, and now you're able to give the +6 attack and speed buff, the charge status, and the order status to the flying allies and yourself into spaces. So yeah, like I said, you're able to get the orders effect out of this, at least for the flying units, while still getting the triangle attack out of her weapon. And then you run Soaring Echo as her attune skill, and you've got the 2-space warping. So you just have a really solid support unit who could function in Summoner Duels and also in Aetheryte's offense. Unfortunately, in Aetheryte's defense, Brattlecatria and a unit like this is really not going to be working that much, because those kinds of teams tend to be low threat range, and nowadays it's so easy to hit and run, especially with Brave Felix and his insanity and the extra action that he's able to get. So that's why this is going to be a bit better for other game modes, even though she can give out the charge status just like Ledger Hinoka. I think for Aetheryte's defense, Ledger Hinoka is still better because she is at least a ranged unit. I'm definitely going to be waiting for Ground Orders 4, because it is likely going to be giving charge to your infantry units. And if you want to have a bootleg Ground Orders, then you could run her with Rain Snap. That is always an option. But yeah, Air Orders 4 is a really solid option with Soaring Echo as the attune skill. And she is actually surprisingly solid with the things that she's able to provide, both as a support and also with her own combat. Her combat effects are not really all that big, but still, the 50% damage reduction piercing is really important, and I definitely value it quite a lot. Then we have got Ice Tribe Flora, and she's the 4-star focus unit of this banner, and she is a colorless Dagger Cavalier with extremely high resistance, like base 46 resistance, I believe. So here she does showcase her Disarm Trap 3, and she does come with Ice Dagger Plus, which is going to be inheritable, and this is a really good inheritable dagger. So this has got the adaptive damage of the Hexblade effect, and then you can get +5 to all of your stats in the combat, and you also get guaranteed follow-up attack, which does help Flora because she is really slow at base 21 speed, and then you have 50% damage reduction piercing built into an inheritable weapon. Now this is going to be really good on many of the infantry units, because you could stack this up with physical non-follow-up or speed defense tempo 4, and this kind of damage reduction piercing is going to be stacking up multiplicatively. So this is actually really good for an inheritable weapon if you don't have any of the arcane daggers, especially Arcane Tempest. And on a lot of the flying and cavalry dagger units, this is going to be a godsend for the damage reduction piercing. I mean, they do have lethality, but still this kind of 50% damage reduction piercing on every single hit does help. and depending on your special always is not the good thing because we have a lot of scout skills, hush spectrum, and things like that. So getting it passively is going to be nice. She is going to be coming with Disarm Trap 3, so if you want to get Potent Disarm, then this could be a decent bridge fodder. I kind of wish that she had got some kind of other useful skill instead of Attack Resistance Catch 3. So that is the Forcer focus unit of this banner, and she is going to be hitting hard with her 47 base attack. And with her resistance, you're easily able to run any kind of ploy skill. And then we have got the star of the banner in Duo Fjorm with Niffle. So they are a lance armor, and this is easily the best Far Savior in the game. By far none, because this is going to be giving you so much flat damage reduction. So she has got Ice Crystal Spear, which gives her minus in special cooldown. So her dual Ice Mirrors is a 1 cooldown special, so keep that in mind. And if foe initiates combat or if foe's HP is at or above 75%, then you're able to get extra stats depending on number of allies in 3 spaces, multiplied by 3 and then added by 5. So you can get max 14 to all of your stats. And she also gets flat damage reduction based on 20% of her speed, which is extremely good for tanking. We don't really have any kind of counter to the flat damage reduction, so Fjorm is going to be having a really good time tanking, and this does stack up with the other unpierceable damage reduction that she has got in her kit, which we'll go over in a minute. She also has the full null penalties, so she's not going to be getting bothered by any kind of debuffs, and she's got the full null follow-up being a fast armor, so you don't really need to give her null follow-up support. And she also heals up 7 HP per attack in the combat, so this is good for the self-sustain. And then you get null counter disrupt versus the ranged foes, just like Ascended Fjorm. So this weapon might not seem all that insane, but her entire kit in combination is really insane. So she's got dual Ice Mirrors, and this is going to be giving you that damage reduction when these special triggers against the ranged enemies, and this is going to be 40% damage reduction. And keep in mind that this is a defensive special, so it is not affected by any kind of scowl effect. So the immunity to the scowl effect is a huge thing. And then she has got the damage reflection just like Ice Mirror, but here it can be minimum 40% of her resistance. So this kind of damage reflection is really good for doing a lot of damage back to the enemy, and she has got a ton of damage reduction. So this can be really good. And then she has got the full damage reduction piercing built in this special, so she doesn't care about any of the pierceable damage reduction. And then finally she has got the distant counter effect built in this with no condition. This is just there as a freebie, so this is always going to be active. And unlike Summer Fjorm, she doesn't really need her special to be pre-charged, so this is a really solid special, giving you the unpierceable damage reduction, giving you the damage reflection, the full damage reduction, piercing, and distant counter. So your Sacred Seal is open, so you can run anything. Then we've got Deluge Boost, which is going to be giving her the extra resistance and speed, and also some bulk. And then we have got Shield Fighter. So at first, you might not think that this is that insane of a skill, but this is a really busted skill. This is essentially Hardy Fighter 4. So this is going to be making the comeback for the near save and far save tanks. So this is going to be inflicting -4 attack and speed debuff on the foe in the combat. And if you've got a defensive special, then you're going to be getting the special cooldown -1 jump before foe's first attack. So this is essentially like Lagu's Friend with its special jumping. And this does help you in either its defense, and it gets around the weakness of Hardy Fighter 3. And if the foe has got a Brave attack, then you also get the special jump against that, and you also get the special jump before the first follow-up attack. So this gives you a lot of protection against the Brave hits, against the follow-up attack. So even slower tanks can make really good use out of this, and this is going to be making them extremely annoying and bulky. Now, the part which is insane of this skill is the smallest part. So if you have a defensive special, then the special triggers twice, and then it reduces damage by flat 7, and each special trigger is calculated separately. So this is absurd because keep in mind that, Fjorm gets 40% unpierceable damage reduction with her special, and this is going to be essentially doubling it. So she gets 64% damage reduction, and then she gets the 7 flat damage reduction on top of it. And then you give her the Emblem Ring, and she gets even more unpierceable damage reduction. She also has the flat damage reduction in her weapon, so that just makes her a really strong Far Savior and the best one for taking on the range threats. And keep in mind that this wants you to use this with defensive specials, and defensive specials are not affected by Scowl. So you're going to be getting double of your damage reduction. So if you run this with Pavis or Aegis on a unit with a minus and special cooldown weapon, then you could just run it with Emblem Marth and still get the special jumping and make use of it, and essentially get 75% unpierceable damage reduction and then get 7 extra flat damage reduction on top of it. So this is going to be making many of the units like Gatry or Valentine Myrrh a lot better. Valentine Myrrh had to depend on Canny Fighter and its pierceable damage reduction, but now she doesn't really have to depend on that. Hopefully this is inheritable to dragons and not just the sword, lance, axe units. And unfortunately range armors are going to be missing out on this because they cannot have access to the defensive specials like the melee armors. So Shield Fighter is an extremely busted skill, and this is going to be making armor units a lot more bulky. Any of your favorite armors with an arcane weapon can easily make use of this with Escutcheon or Sacred Cowl, and if you give them Emblem Marth, then they can run Aegis or Pavis and make the full use out of it. So this, along with Hathorn support and Breath of Life 4, definitely makes a comeback for the armors, because even though they're weak to AoE specials and pre-combat damage, you can always have allies that can provide you that healing with Breath of Life 4, and Hathorn is, as it is, an amazing support unit, so you don't really need to have it in your kit, and you could just run Shield Fighter and be a really obnoxious tank with a ton of unpierceable damage reduction. So that is going to be our best Far Savior probably for a while. Unfortunately, the Far Saviors don't really last that long, but I think that Fjorm might be an exception because she is a fast armor. So if they make a slower armor with this kind of shield fighter, then at least Fjorm is able to stand out by denying the follow-up attacks. But again, that kind of depends on fighting the speed creep. And Fjorm is going to be a bit weak to the melee attacks, but again, you could just run a Near Savior, and if you don't have Near Saviors, then you could make use of Soren and his assigned decoy. But keep in mind that Lorathor is coming up, and if you didn't pay attention, just look at his weapon from the story mode, and he might be making things interesting. And speaking of interesting, we have got a duo skill here that applies a Divine Vein Ice Terrain, so that didn't last long for Brave Female Robin, in 2 spaces of the unit for 2 turns. 2 turns, that is quite annoying. Now again, this is a Divine Vein Ice Terrain, so this can be overwritten by the Flame Terrain or the other terrains, but the fact that this is there as a duo skill is just insane and annoying for Summoner duels. So yeah, just look at that. So this is going to be there for 2 turns, and this is going to be helping you enable the duo hindrance usage and Ether Wade's defense when you use her there. So that is going to be the Ice Tribe banner, and Fjorm is just really absurd with her tanking, and Shield Fighter is going to be the armor skill that you want to give to your favorite armors. We also have Ice Tribe Nils here, so he's a blue infantry dragon, and he's going to be having his play most likely, but his weapon is going to be similar to Flora, I think. I don't think he's going to be having a preferred weapon, but still the 50% damage reduction piercing is nice on a Dragon Breath, I suppose. And I want to thank all of my 2 members for the constant support, and you can click the link on your screen right now to check out my breakdown of the Legendary Mail Chest banner, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Shield Fighter on range armors. So with that, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.